Hello and welcome to the Light the Sky podcast. It has been a while since we've come to you out there. A lot has happened in the Light the Sky world. Mark has been busy working on a bunch of projects. I think he worked on a feature film at one point. Chris has been busy with work, a lot going on. Alex has been busy. I know he's playing in gigs all the time. As for myself, well, I have a new addition to the family. My daughter was born, and I've been moving this room that I usually come to you from. Been in the process of building myself a new room, something with a little bit more space, and honestly, something to clean out the upstairs space. Now that it's getting a little cluttered because we need more of it now with a new family member. So trying to move that around. I'm coming to you from a temporary setup. Don't have my usual rig tonight, so I'm not sure how much examples I'll be playing for you tonight, but we'll do our best. And I thought that this would be an experiment. One, we wanted to let you know that we're still out here. Please go back, enjoy our discographies. We've done quite a few of them. We've done Van Halen, we've done Metallica, we've done Pink Floyd. You've heard them if you're a regular listener. Just finished up with Boston, and we did select a new discography. Who knows if it'll change by the time we get around to doing it, actually, but we will see when that rolls around. Either way, we still are talking. We still are chatting about music when we can. We haven't had the opportunity to get together in person, even as much as we had previously, just because there's so much going on. Scheduling podcasts has been difficult as of late, but we are still thinking about you. Thank you for the letters that we've gotten. Thank you for the emails. We are listening to you. We hope you are enjoying what we've done in the past. We will see when that new discography gets released. You know what? By the time we do it, it'll probably be totally different. In the meantime, though, I decided to do a little bit of an experimental show tonight. We'll see how this goes. This is already take two. I said in take one that, everything might be deleted. Why is this take two? Well, because my temporary rig that I talked about already failed me, stopped recording when I was 10 minutes into the first take. Maybe I get it better this time, who knows. But what I wanted to talk about today, one of my favorite topics, production. This is totally off the cuff, so no script, no preparation. I've got no idea what I'm doing here, solo behind a mic. Probably should have written some notes down. But you've heard us talk in the past. We did a whole special episode on production. And we also did a special episode on general music questions. And my thought tonight was to combine the two. Talk about various aspects of production. Production as a whole from the start. And then just talk about some of the discussions I've seen online. Because as a topic, it is one of the topics that I'm passionate about, that I like reading about, like learning about. And when I see it talked about online, obviously it piques my interest. So I pay special attention to it when I do see it online. So production, there's so many various aspects to that word. There is the whole sonic side of it, even starting from the microphones and the recording techniques and that whole engineering side, in a lot of ways, I view the engineer as an arm of the production of the album. And then there's, the mixing side, the mastering side, but there's so much more than that as well. You have artist relationships, you have label relationships, you have budgetary, conflicts, you have scheduling, for just, in the end, creating a product of this song or this album, right? But mostly when we talk about production as casual music listeners, we're usually talking about the sonics. So it's everything that we can hear. And so you'll see it out there discussed online about, I don't really hear bad production or good production, or, we'll get on the topic of bad or good production later. But there are those people that don't hear production, which kind of confuses me. But first of all, first I'd like to say that I'm almost a little jealous of that because then I could enjoy some of those albums that are so obvious, like those later Boston albums where Tom Scholz had those horrible programmed drums. Like every time I hear it, it grates on me, right? Um, and then if I didn't hear it, then maybe I could just enjoy the songs. Maybe a bad mix wouldn't affect me as much as it does, and just make me long for more. Um, for instance, I'll give you another example. There's the Def Leppard album in 1999, Euphoria. Without giving anything away, you never know what we're going to do in the future, but without getting anything away, I enjoy a lot of songs on that album, but I just feel like the mix is very 1999. And if the mix were done in 1987, like, man, how much better some of those songs would be. And how at the top of my list some of those songs would be, as opposed to, yeah, I like it, but yeah, I like it, but all the sounds are there, but it's just, a very 1999 mix. The drum sounds, it's the classic snare sound, but it's just not mixed front and center to be huge. Um, I've always wanted to remix that album. Def Leppard, if you're listening to this, send me the tracks for that album because I'd love to remix one or two of the songs and try to get closer to that 80s sound as I can. But if I didn't hear that, what would it be? And you have to think that in reality, these people that say they can't hear production, well, they can. They can. There's just a threshold. Their threshold is different, right? Because, let's take another example, classic example of Death Magnetic. Now, that may fall into the mastering bucket of production, or may fall into the mixing bucket of production. There's been blame both ways, on who takes the blame for those particular sonics on that album. But it's a hotly debated one. You've probably heard people talking about it before, right? So think about that album, and if you could not hear it, like, oh yeah, it sounds a little loud, but whatever, I just use my volume, no big deal. Would that affect, the enjoyment of that album? It's like, oh, no big deal. As opposed to somebody's like, man, it's just overly, my ears can't take it. It's just a constant barrage. Everything is just too much. It's hard to listen to the songs when that's what the brain is focusing on. But you have to think like, okay, that's one example. Hot mastering, maybe a hot mix, maybe a poor mix, whatever. Now, take an extreme example. Let's say they made that same album. The guys got into a room, they got into the studio, they booked all this time, but they decided the best way that they were going to fulfill their artistic integrity was to put one microphone in the closet, shut the door, record the band in the main room, so all you hear is the sound muffled behind the door of the closet. Pretty much everybody could hear that. You say, well, is that actually production? Well, it's very extreme. Yeah, it's bad microphone placement and bad decision on pretty much everybody's part releasing the album. But really, like, yes, that's a very extreme version of it. But you would think at that point, like, man, what is this garbage? I can't believe it. I mean, think about the snare on Saint Anger. We talked about it so many times, that open, like, where the snare's turned off kind of sound, the trash can, as Chris called it. Like, that's something that a lot of people heard. Like, that threshold was hit. Whatever that threshold was hit. So I have to think that, yes, everybody can hear production. Now, if you can hear the big things, do the little things make the difference? I tend to think so, but I'm also one of those people that really delves into the clean, pristine, just kind of perfect, not necessarily all lined up and gridded and everything like that, but that just very clean, beautiful, sonically pleasing production. That is what I'm into, right? And this leads us into our next topic of opinion. Can production be good or bad? But this is a question we struggled with even in music, right? So you've heard us. If you've listened to any of our shows, any of our discographies, Love It or Flush It is a thing. And we have a lot of fun and we go through the album and we love, flush, terminate, by these songs, right? And yeah, it's fun and it's supposed to be entertaining and we have fun with it. And, of course, it's not 100% serious because nobody wants to sit down and listen to a podcast where you have, an encyclopedia read to you because that's boring, not entertaining. So we talk all the time about good music, bad music, but ultimately it filters down to what we like and what we don't like. And we've had the debate on the show a lot of times about what's subjective. Music is all subjective. I like this. You don't like this. Well, who's right? Who's wrong? Well, it's art, right? So I know I'm listening to it and my reaction, whatever neurons in my brain or my feeling is just like, yeah, I don't like this. And really, I should be, the point of what we do on the show. And somebody with a good argument would be like, I don't like this because, I don't like this because the song structure doesn't appeal to me. There's too much repetition, something to validate how we're feeling. Now, that doesn't, maybe somebody likes it because of the repetition. And that doesn't make them wrong either. So we get into this area where everything is a shade of gray. But of course, on the show, we debate, the fireworks go, we have fun, you're wrong. No, it's like, I hate it all. That's all well and good. But, we go and we talk about music in this way, the good, the bad. And then let's flip it over to production. And you find yourself looking at the exact same issues. What makes good? What makes bad? If you are a fan of the 80s style, the big drums, the gated reverb, the clean, jangly guitars, compression on those guitars, big background vocals, things like that, you'll be fine with those albums. And if you're not a fan of that style, you like a dry style, you like something stripped down, something that, that I hate that term overproduced, but let's say you call that kind of style overproduced, that 80s style overproduced, you're not going to like that. But is one good or bad or better than the other? In the end, it comes down again to what we like. And that's just very hard to reconcile. That is very hard to reconcile. But at the same time, you have to admit that there are production styles that fit styles of music better. There are production styles where if you hear a song by a band or a group or an artist and you think, it would be perfect like this. You can see it just fitting. It fits like a glove. This song fits this production style like a glove. There's a reason like punk bands have a more stripped down, raw style of production to them for the most part. Again, you're going to find the ones that don't, right? You're going to find that the shiny punk band, productions maybe won't happen as much, but at the same time, why? Why is it like that? Well, because, the music is more stripped down, raw, in your face, dirty. So the production style is going to be more stripped down, raw, and dirty. It fits. together. So as much as there's an opinion this way, an opinion that way on good and bad, can you say it's good if it fits the style of music? I don't know. At the same time, I don't want to discount an entire style of music because I don't like the style of production. It's really it's like you're walking on this edge. Where do you fall? And I think, again, this is another line that divides people. I mean, think about it. If you take your favorite progressive rock song of all time, right? Or take something like, oh, let's see, something that's really kind of out there. Take your favorite modern progressive rock song of all time. Let's say you take something like that and throw massive 80s production on it. Drown it in reverb. Drown it in delay. Okay? Would you like it as much? Does it suffer because of it? Would you like it more, maybe? At what point does the production boost or negatively take away from a song, from that work? Now, see, I've always been this fan of the fact, like, production cannot make a bad song good, but production can make a good song bad, if that makes sense. Like, you can have an amazing song and have the production be so lousy to me where I will just not have the desire to listen to it. But you can have a horrible song and have just amazing, awesome production on it. I will rarely, almost never get the urge to listen to that song. Even if I'm like, wow, so well produced. And I love the sound of the guitars. The drums are just really perfect. You can hear the space in it. But the song, it sucks. Like, I'm almost never going to listen to that song. I'll go find a song on there, that album perhaps, that I do like a lot more. I'd probably listen to that to death and love the production of it. I'll try to think as we go about an album where that happens. I mean, there are plenty of kind of 80s power pop, 80s pop albums where, I'll like maybe the lead single or something like that. And then, the B side still has production I like, but, that song's not doing it for me. I'm never going to listen to it just because it's got production I like on it. This almost reminds me of the lyrics debate. You ever hear that one where people be loving a song and there'd be a certain group of people be like, yeah, man, I love the song, but I just can't get over the lyrics. They're just too corny, cheesy, whatever. Songs like that? I got an example, actually. The Count of Tuscany by Dream Theater is one of those songs for me. I really like the music. And I've actually found myself liking the music more. But God, those lyrics. And maybe it's the delivery too. The Cookie Monster vocals just really don't help. Like, where are the Cookie Monster vocals? My brother. Let me introduce my brother. God, how was that even said with a straight face in the studio? I don't know. Right. But at a certain point, I get to these lyrics and I think about them and like maybe they're too literal or whatnot. And I'm sorry, Mr. Petrucci, but it's just like I can't get over the lyrics. And that knocks down the song for me. And then you'll read people online and be like, man, I didn't even notice the lyrics. I'm just here for the riffs. I'm just here for the notes. I'm just here for the virtuosity. I just want to hear them be heavy and be virtuosos, be virtuosos and play a million notes and, do this epic song and that's it. And you know what? That's good. But I call BS on that a little bit. I've wanted to say this for a long time because there is a point where the lyrics matter, just like there's a point where the production matters. There's a threshold, and it changes for, it's just like we talked about with the production and the styles. Take a song of a totally different style, take those lyrics, erase the lyrics for a song of another style. Paste the lyrics in their place. Is the song as good? You want me to give you an example? Fine. Take that same song, The Count of Tuscany by Dream Theater. Get rid of the lyrics. Now you have a 20-minute lyricless epic. We're going to open up on the other screen. We're going to open up Love on the Rocks by Poison. Copy those lyrics. Paste them in The Count of Tuscany. That's what James is singing. Same melodies, whatever. They're going to make it work. All those people that don't mind, don't even notice the lyrics of that song. Is that song as good now? James LaBrie opens up the song where she goes down like a shot of gin. Like, geez, after that beautiful guitar solo intro thing, imagine getting slapped across the face with that lyric. Lyric works in a Poison song. It's a Poison song. It's party rock. Like nobody's taking that seriously. It's supposed to be like goofy and over the top and just like almost cringeworthy. But you take that same lyric and paste it in a Dream Theater song. It's supposed to be a little bit more cerebral. Thinking, that's the whole point, we're just supposed to be, pat ourselves on the back for, how much better our music is now. I'm just taking a dig at those progressive rock fans out there. But anyway, just, paste those lyrics and suddenly it makes a big difference. Paste some of those David Lee Roth lyrics in some of those songs, they're all serious and take some of those David Lee Roth lyrics and paste them elsewhere. I think it's very, in that case, it's very hard for serious artists to be goofy. It's just harder to pull off, especially in the area of lyrics. Because automatically you're going to have people who are just turned off. I think it's easier for goofy artists to pull the serious card. Though it doesn't always work, Not a huge fan of Something to Believe In by Poison. I don't know why. It's all right. Maybe it's the delivery. I don't know. But, they've done other songs that are more on the serious side. Ride the Wind. I kind of like Ride the Wind. Again, not the most serious song of all time in terms of the lyrical content, but it's relatable, So that's another interesting area where you have threshold. You have that threshold. And maybe that's what this episode should be titled. It should be titled Thresholds, because I don't know if I mentioned this earlier, but this is 100% off the cuff. I have no notes. I have no outline. I've got nothing. All I knew that I was going to start talking about production and see where that went. But maybe this is just about musical thresholds. Where do those thresholds lie for you? At what point can you just say to yourself, I can't take this anymore? Is it the electronic drums in a Boston album? Boy, the last thing I want is for us to leave the taste of Live, Laugh, Love. God, is that the last album we covered? Jeez. What a thing to end on the last discography. Man, we got to open up that new discography with something good, because, woof, it's like you get that taste in your mouth. That taste has been sitting there for months. It's like that 5-month-old taste in your mouth that you can't shake. Can't do any kind of mouthwash that'll get it away. I'm sorry about that, folks. We'll get something better to you soon. Maybe we do the new Metallica album. Now, it's an addition to our discography, an addendum. That would be kind of interesting. Take a listen to that. That just came out last Friday. Maybe I need some time to sink in as well. Who knows? It's a very fresh album. at least in terms of the release date. What you think about it, well, that's your opinion. Um, but musical thresholds, where do they lie for you? At what point is it too much or too little? I think everybody has those tolerance levels. And as I'm sitting here talking about it, I almost want to make a chart. It almost sounds stupid to be that scientific, but it's like you take your lyrics bucket and your production bucket and your songwriting bucket, and what else can we quantify with those thresholds? Maybe mixing and mastering, but that's part of production. You could break it down into and you take a chart and you put like, this is my low threshold, this is my high threshold, this is how much I can tolerate, and this is how much I can't. You could even say style. People have style thresholds. There's some people that just cannot listen to rap. It's totally fine. Some people cannot listen to rock. Totally fine. Some people can't listen to electronic music, atonal music, experimental music, music that's barely music. Everybody's got that threshold. You start moving out of the standard Western scales. Moving out of that bubble, even Western, Eastern. We're going to move into sub harmonics and tones and just almost noises and creating music that way. How much of that can somebody take? Where's that threshold? It gets pushed all the time, right? And you personally, like, maybe you can't even take the slightest bit of that. And then you're sitting next to somebody whose threshold for that, whose tolerance level is just that much higher. But maybe, you love this, I don't know, 90s dance music, and they just can't stand it. Their threshold for that is very low. And then at the same time, you have songs that break that mold, and songs that are gateways and entryways into that, which is also interesting. So you can have your threshold for, let's say, again, we've been talking a lot about progressive rock. So let's just say 70s progressive rock. You have that threshold. And let's say it's a very low threshold. Let's say you only like Close to the Edge by Yes. I don't know many fans that only like that album and no other progressive rock albums, but let's just say you did. It's just an example. So that's where your threshold ends, and everything else, you're just like, man, I could leave it. But there might be that song that's like a gateway that pushes the threshold. It's almost sounding like drugs at the moment, which is very unfortunate. That was not the intended way it was going, but it is like that. It opens up a new horizon. The threshold is increased. Suddenly you find one or two more progressive rock songs that you like from the 70s, but there's still that limit. There's going to be that band that somebody says, man, you should really check it out. They made an album just like Close to the Edge, and you listen to it and you're like, nope. That is outside my threshold for listening to 70s progressive rock. Like, man, I don't know what you're talking about sounding like Close to the Edge. Maybe that's early Genesis for you, when they're doing some of that. It gets a little bit too odd for you. All that stuff was all kind of odd. Progressive rock in general from that era. You have to have a taste for it, appreciation for it. Some people, it's like, no, none of it. Where does that lie for everybody? And maybe that's what we debate about all the time. Maybe that's why we go on Piper the Gates of Dawn, and my threshold for that kind of music is like at a 2. And other people's is like at a 6 or 7, maybe not a 10. But like, man, my threshold is really high, so I see where this album has such appreciation for it, and my threshold is really low. I'm like, man, like the meter is just hitting it constantly. Think of it like a limiter. The audio engineers out there, maybe even those of you who aren't audio engineers, you see that limiter, and I've set that threshold so low on that limiter. And so it is, the dBs are just hitting it constantly, and it does not sound good at that threshold. And somebody else that is raised up, the level of dBs it can sit comfortably in. Maybe it still hits it at some points, but for the most part, it's that much more listenable. And somebody who absolutely loves it, there's almost no limiter on. It can go on forever. Meters are freely running up and down as high as they want or as low as they want, provided there's no clipping, and they're loving every minute of it. As for me, the meters are constantly slammed, and I'm just not going to like what I hear. Can we change those thresholds? I don't know. Probably, because I just talked about like gateways into it. And anybody who's discovered music, discovered a new band, there's one song, there's one album, suddenly you get into it, suddenly you get into the back catalog. So yeah, there's ways of probably opening that up. But how is that done? Maybe that's a question for another episode. I'm not sure. Perhaps this is where I leave you today. Half an hour is not bad, right? We'll see what this gets edited down to. I kind of like the intro from the first take better. I almost want to do another take for the intro. But you know what? It's off the cuff. This is a random episode. Maybe Mark, Chris, and Alex hate this. They can't stand it. They're going to be like, don't publish it. Or maybe they're going to listen to it and be like, well, what on earth was Kevin rambling about for so long? Well, you know what? This was a 30-minute segment. It was very difficult to just mumble my way through this. But hey, it's a solo show. Maybe I come on with a solo show next time and be more prepared. Let me know. Maybe you hated this. The audience, maybe I'll get an email tomorrow that says, Kevin, don't ever do another solo show. Get everybody else back. It's so much better with everybody else. You talk too much. We liked when you just triggered the sounds. Just trigger the flushes in the future, okay? You could do that. Press the button for the flush. Give us a couple thoughts on the album and just can it the rest of the time. Or maybe you want more of this. We're like, Kevin, you know what? You want a 4-hour show. Do you talking? I doubt that's the case. I don't think I could even talk that long. Anyway, thank you very much for listening. We appreciate it. Please listen to our previous discographies. Listen to our special episodes. Let us know what you like, what you hate. We always hear what you hate, so that's no surprise ever. But let us know. We are listening to you. We are still here. We are still around. We still talk. It's been a blast, everybody. Thank you for being here, listening to this episode. I will see you later. Have a good one.